It was a really eventful day, too, because we saw a lot of dominating victories by a couple teams we didn't expect.
Curse looks to make it 2-0 in the spring split.
Evil Geniuses picking up their first win of the North American LCS. EG looked a lot better. Dignitas looked a lot better as well.
Huge moves for Dignitas right there.
Dignitas just completely in control.
Voyboy standing out to me actually quite well. No one really knew if he was going to do well in the mid lane, but so far so good because Curse is undefeated.
Oh, wow, Voyboy is just getting fed right now.
Voyboy is just unstoppable.
The big match for me today is TSM versus Curse. I think these teams are on pretty equal levels.
Dig versus C9. It's going to be really tough for C9 to drop a game. They seem unstoppable.
Cloud9 stays undefeated in the spring split of 2014.
Get ready for an awesome day 3 here at the NA LCS. It's going to be some great games.
Ladies and gentlemen, to day 3 in our Super Week rollout of the 2014 North American League Championship Series Spring Split. We're coming to you live in front of this amazing studio audience here in the city of Los Angeles, and I am Rivington Bisson III along with Sam Kobe, Hartman Kensler. Today we've got 5 more matchups as teams try to climb their way up in the LCS standings.
And it all kicks off with Hotshot GG and CLG taking on a red-hot Curse.
And as a reminder, at the end of today's NA LCS action, we have 2 more games in the NA Challenger Series as teams battle their way to get to the bigs.
The action has been exciting all weekend, and today promises to be no different.
Absolutely. First, let's send it over to the caster's desk where Freak and Jat are standing by to break down the day 3 action.
Thank you very much, Riv. I'm David Freak Turley. With me is Joshua Jat Leesman, and of course an amazing crowd.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. We're 2/3 of the way through our first Super Weekend. Let's get it underway.
It's going to be awesome, guys. So one of the bigger stories so far this weekend is actually Curse starting off really strong.
Yeah, they're 2-0 right now, which not too many people expected, maybe except for Curse, because they've come out strong with some unconventional picks in at least their second game. The Akali mid, the Pantheon jungle, it was nice to watch.
Yeah, it was fun. Of course, on the other side of the spectrum, though, Team Coast off to a disappointing start with 0-2.
Yeah, Coast has started a couple of these splits really rough. They were actually beaten by Dignitas in 31 minutes, even though their first game was very close against Curse. They have to pick it up today if they want to try to finish this Super Week on a good note.
Yeah, they're going to have to. And, of course, speaking of ending on a good note, Evil Geniuses finally picked up their first win last night when they took over CLG, but they've got another game to play today.
EG really took control of the game that time. They had a good early game, and then they were able to transition throughout the rest of it. And the top performer for them really was Inox in that win. He had struggled so much in the first 2 games of the split. Then he played a more conventional thing and did very well in game 3.
And it's funny, too, because Crepo said that when he was playing the, squishy carry top laners, he tended to really perform well in scrims. So we'll see if that's kind of a clutch thing here. But, of course, we can't not mention Cloud9. They started 3-0. They're top of the North American League. Again, no surprise here for most people.
Yeah, Cloud9 always the dominant force since they joined North America last summer. And also, yesterday, the games were really fast. We had a fast pacing in them. 31 minutes was the average game time for the North American games. And just for some comparison, the average game length in Europe was around 40 minutes. So the North American games definitely closing out a lot faster once teams take a lead.
Yeah, good job by these guys to keep that play going up, keeping it fast. Of course, let's take a look at the standings now. After our first 2 days, we can see where everyone stacks up. As we said, in first place is Cloud9, 3-0, and they're not slowing down yet.
And sitting in second with a clean 2-0 record is Curse, and in third place at 2-1 is Team Solo Mid.
And then there was a 4-way tie for fourth place, Counter Logic Gaming, Evil Geniuses, Team Dignitas, and XDG all there. And unfortunately, in last place is Team Coast, yet to pick up a win.
Yeah, it's tough for them.
It is. Oh, well. But we'll see if they can get themselves back on track. Now, of course, nothing stays the same forever today. We have 5 more games to shake things up, and that all starts with Counter Logic Gaming versus Curse.
Then it is Dignitas taking on Cloud9, followed by Coast looking for their first win when they face off against Evil Geniuses. And after that, of course, it's a classic matchup between TSM and Curse.
It's my match of the day to watch for, guys. It's going to be a fun one. Of course, closing out the day as well is going to be XDG versus Coast. This is, again, a Coast team looking for their first win there. Now, guys, remember to head over to lolesports.com and let us know who you think is going to win today. Click on matches in the top right, go to week 1, and lock in your vote.
Yeah, and then head over to Twitter and let us know what you think. Today we're asking you, which LCS player has impacted your own game the most and how?
We are at LOL Esports. Be sure to use the hashtag LCS, and hey, you might get bragging rights among your friends if we read your answer later on air today. Now, of course, we're going to now send it over to the analyst desk where Riv and Kobe are going to give us some in-depth look at what players to watch.
Thank you very much, Freak. And while the 2014 Spring Split is exactly 2 days old right now with another one up and coming just today, we've already seen some great plays and some great players. So for you, Kobe, looking at this, who should we be keeping our eye on?
So the first one, they sort of mentioned it there, but I'm going to have to keep my eye on Inox because in the games where he didn't perform that well, you know, he's on some squishy champions, they did end up losing, but he kicked off to a really, really good start yesterday with that Mundo game and really stepped it up. Next is Bjergsen. He's been making big plays in the mid lane, especially yesterday on LeBlanc, getting first blood solo versus Skara.
Yeah, one player, you know, I think that's actually been flying under the radar a little bit is Kopp. He has a 16.0 KDA coming in 2 games. Is Caitlyn? He's putting up some numbers.
He has been. And then next we have, you know, not a lot was expected from Kiwi Kid because he was switching from the top lane down to support. But man, yesterday his roaming Annie mid-game just led Dignitas to their first win of the LCS. And then finally, I'm going to keep a close eye on Double Lift, as usual, to see how the star of CLG is going to respond to these first 2 losses.
It will be interesting to see if he kind of builds defensively or more in line with the team, or if he reverts to his old tendencies of kind of going off and farming by himself. We'll see. We got a closer look at the bot lane combos. Has taught us anything this week is no matter how it turns out for Double Lift, he'll be starting the game with a friend.
Synergy is when you know what your support's going to do and vice versa before they do it, so you can start like planning your next action, like what you're going to do in response to what your support does.
Then you have to figure out who's the big spoon and who's the little spoon.
Then you're done.
Then you're done.
I think the most fun part is when you're smashing land so hard, the jungler comes, and then you just 2v3, and then they just GG like 10 minutes later because the game is over.
When one of us is on tilt, it's the other partner's job to take everything on their shoulders and carry the game. So like when we played Battle of the Atlantic, and they 3-man level 1 ganked me in the bush bottom, and I was out for the rest of the game. And then Peter just took everything on his shoulders and started carrying the game.
When you have a bad day, it's just like, oh, that was bad. And then you just kind of want to redo, so, you know, go on to the next game so you can just not do that stupid thing that you did. Sometimes you just randomly play really bad for like 2 to 3 games in a row and it just feels bad, but you end up fixing it.
I've never yelled at Peter, and he's never yelled at me, so it's just...
The love is in the air.
Man, they
love is in the air, Riv.
You can feel it. Just cut it right with the knife. But yeah, I mean, maybe they need to yell at each other a little bit. Get more aggressive and on each other's skin.
I've yelled at you before.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible. We got to take a short break. We'll flash away, but don't go anywhere. When we return, CLG and Curse take to the Rift in our first game of the day. More Super Week action continues after this.